A blessed evening to everyone and also those who are joining us through this live stream, joining us from other parts of the world. As I've said in the introduction, we call this celebration today as Red Wednesday, an initiative of a PayPal foundation called Aid to the Church in Need, a Catholic organization founded in 1947 for the war refugees. And in 2011, it was recognized as a PayPal foundation dedicated to the service of Christians around the world through information, prayer, and action wherever they are persecuted and suffering material needs, fellow Christians. And according to the report of this pontifical foundation, it supports around 6,000 projects yearly in 150 countries. It thrives through through private donations. It doesn't receive public funding, for example. This Red Wednesday is one of these initiatives of this foundation, PayPal Foundation, or charitable organization, to help precisely the Christians worldwide by praying and standing in solidarity with those persecuted Christians by helping them materially also and financially. This Red Wednesday was first organized very recently in the United Kingdom in 2016. And in 2017, one of the churches that would follow was the Philippine Church. And in 2020, our bishops, the Conference of Bishops in the Philippines, declared this Red Wednesday as an official activity of the church. That's why in the instruction today of the bishops that we should make a statement, personal statement by wearing red now. That's why the seminarians and some of you are wearing red. And also to put lights, red lights now in the church, at the facade, for example, of the church, etc., expressing our solidarity with them. And of course, our solidarity in terms of prayer and our generous contribution for these different projects of the church in relation to this sector of Christian population. Thanks be to God that we are free here in the Philippines now to express our whatever religion we would like to follow. But there are still places in the world where people cannot practice, for example, their faith. Or worse still, countries where there is extremism, where they would persecute the Christians, burn their churches, Nigeria, for example, or other parts of the world. In fact, our live streaming here is appreciated, for example, by in some countries where they cannot worship freely. So by watching our live streaming, for example, of fellow Filipinos working in these countries where they cannot go to Mass, participate in the Mass, this is their way of connecting, praying, no, and being nourished in their faith through, for example, this live streaming in our devotion. So the theme of this celebration of Red Wednesday is, "Blessed are the persecuted. By your perseverance, you will secure your lives." Part of this year's theme is taken from the Gospel today, found at the last line of the Gospel, "By your perseverance, you will secure your lives," found in Luke 21, verse 19. We must have noticed already that the readings during the last weeks of the liturgical year are taken from the so-called eschatological discourse of Jesus, meaning teachings of Jesus about end time, about the end. No? But experts of the Bible warn us not to be focused only on that terrifying, apocalyptic, open, perplexing images regarding the end of history or end time. They invite us rather to look at the other dimensions of this teaching of Jesus. It is not so much, according to scholars, about end time, but rather the perfect or the fulfillment of time inaugurated by Jesus when He came, in which He experienced that being experienced that also that martyrdom, that passion, arrest, and martyrdom. And He is trying to tell us here that as Jesus had gone through these sufferings, arrest, martyrdom, death, that Christians are also not exempted from these challenges of suffering, arrest, martyrdom, before the glorious coming of God's reign. Just as Jesus had to go through these sufferings before reaching the glory, it is the same path for Christians to undergo: passion. For the evangelist Saint Luke, in fact, the passion of Christ continues in the life of the disciples. It did not end with Jesus, that passion, but rather it continues in the life of Christians. One of the examples in the Bible that we find, for example, is the case of Saint Stephen, now described in the Acts of the Apostles. This is a story of Jesus and of the church, that they have to experience their respective passion passage through this narrow door of suffering. But it says here at the end of the gospel, "But with perseverance in waiting for the glory which builds the new world, will save the faithful." And thus it is only through the many tribulations that one enters into the kingdom. And precisely like that painful experience of a mother giving birth, which generates life, new life, it is the same with the experience of suffering for Christians. The gospel today, it uses a central term, perseverance. I checked the text in Greek. It uses the word hypomone, translated precisely as perseverance, endurance, constancy, patience. Constancy under the suffering in faith and duty. Constancy indicates the persistent effort is being made, in this case against past pressing trouble. It can also be understood as a quality that doesn't allow one to surrender. And this is precisely the quality, according to Jesus, that leads us to secure our salvation. It is in the perseverance in the midst of suffering and challenges, steadfastness and constancy, qualities demanded from true disciples and followers of Jesus. If you look at life in general, it is not only in this case about faith, but even in life in general, this perseverance, constancy, is an important quality of one who wants to be successful in life. Studying for a career or whatever, you need to have constancy. You cannot learn your lesson of philosophy or mathematics just by just one reading. You have to go through so many and repeat. I tell that to my students, for example, in Latin. You cannot learn Latin by just reading once only. You have to have that patience, that hypomone, no? In order to achieve our goal. If that is required for a successful professional life, that is also one of the qualities being required of the followers of Jesus Christ. Our candidates to be installed as extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion, you are starting today a long process of life of service. It is a start of committing yourselves to be part of this ministry of service, serving the Lord and His people by helping the priests and the ministers around the altar and in the distribution of the Holy Communion. And we know that to continue in the service of the Lord throughout our lives, we need this hypomone, perseverance, constancy. And we ask the Lord then that as He has given us Himself with His hypomone, with His constancy in loving us, may we also learn to respond to Him with the same passion, patience, perseverance, steadfastness, and constancy. Amen.